No, ex-military. Works for an NGO now.
You've got him on the line?
Exactly. He's on the ground now, actually. I should really, get back to it.
Of course. Go ahead. Oh, and Kate, send me a note later. Thanks.
Hello, Nathan? Sorry to keep you waiting. My editor. Where were we?
Hey, you were asking about the guy, the one that went back there, the guy that,
Ah, that's right. And did you know him well?
No, not really. He worked maintenance on our trucks.
He was employed by IDAP.
No, nothing like that. I mean, he just helped us out a few times. Off the book stuff. Guy was a local mechanic. Family business type thing, you know?
I see.
I remember he had a place on the edge of town, not far from our setup. We'd chat from time to time. He's a nice guy, friendly.
And do you know where he was going that day?
To the church.
He was going to church.
No, don't get me wrong. I mean, that place had been abandoned for almost a year. But he was looking for his brother.
At the church?
Yeah, there'd been reports of, pretty brutal firefight up there. He'd heard his brother might have been caught up in it.
Sure, and I'm not quite clear on this. Was his brother still alive?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't think he knew either. Seems like he was on his way to find out.
So, his brother, he was in the army?
Yes and no. It's complicated. You gotta remember it was pretty chaotic back then.
Of course. Okay, let's back up a bit.
Sure.
What complicated the situation?
Just the history of it all. His brother had been a recruit in the Alta's Armed Forces, boot camp, basic training, you know. Well, this is back when NATO was still keeping the peace. But after U.S. forces pulled out...
Hello? Kate speaking.
Hey, sorry about that. Call must have dropped. The network out here is garbage.
No problem. It's understandable. Are you still driving?
Yeah, we're not at the town yet. Hold on a sec. Andy, we almost there.
We're, a little ways out. Oh, and we need to make one quick stop, too.
Thanks, bud. So, where'd we get cut off?
You were telling me about the church. The landmine? The accident?
Right, yeah. Well, of course, a civilian casualty like that, particularly in a church, I guess it kind of refocused our attention here.
Had IDAP been particularly active in the area?
Yeah. I mean, our project had a handful of camps spread across the country. But yeah, I was in the town itself for a few months. It's all different now, though.
How so?
Well, for one thing, IDAP used to be based right in the heart of Oreo Castro. Of course, this was all pre-war. I remember, at that time, the local military maintained a checkpoint on the outskirts of town. That was understandable. I mean, the whole area was a kind of Wild West. Big mashup of civilian and guerrilla infrastructure. Disaster waiting to happen, really. I don't know. It's strange to see our camp based there now.
Hey, sorry about the holdup. We're on the way now.
All right, thanks, Andy.
So, What's your role there today?
Now, in general, look for a vision of aid. There was a lot of damage. IDAP fills the gap. Drinking water, basic medicine, post-war cleanup, in other words.
And on the ground, how does that translate to your work?
It's a mixed bag, like today. Part demining, part unexploded ordnance disposal.
I see.
Heads up, Mac. Almost there.
Got it. I'm sorry about that. We're arriving now. Give me a sec.
All right, Mac. That's your stuff all laid out here.
Hold on just a sec, Kate. I need to get set up.
Take your time.
All right, then. You got everything? Detector working? You remember how to switch it on, right?
Yeah, I got it, Andy.
Then you're all set.
Thanks. So for now, I'll just make a note of where the mines are.
Yeah. Take it slow, Mac. We'll let the Bobcat do the heavy lifting later.
Hey, sorry, I forgot to mention, the demining toolkit, totally forgot to pack it up this morning.
That's no big deal. We're just locating the mines for now. Just keep me posted.
Are you free to talk, Nathan?
Sure. For now, I'm just sweeping the road for mines, getting a lay of the land, you know. The detector lets us see what we're dealing with here. I can work and chat.
Question. What happens when you do find a landmine?
Ordinarily, we disarm it, but today, small oversight, we haven't got all our gear right now.
Oh, it's on the way, I hope.
Yeah, it's all good.
So, since the war's now over, has your own role changed at all?
Yeah, I guess so. Now I'm almost entirely focused on EOD and UXO.
And that's something you did in the military, too?
Yeah, that's the thing about mines. War or not, win, lose, they don't go away.
How many minefields are you facing on Altis?
That we know of, 22. 23 including whatever's here. Plus you've got Stratus, another 4 over there, I think.
I see. And can you estimate, roughly, how long it would take to remove them all?
A lot of variables, but cleanup operation of this size, if it's only IDAP, we're talking years.
Do you ever get nervous?
Yeah, but not when I'm working. It hits you after. Or before. Andy, I'm at the barricade.
Cool. And the road?
Yeah, it's what we thought. Dozen or so APs, nothing the old Bobcat can't handle.
How well do you remember the town?
You mean before it was destroyed? Vividly. I got a UXO here dug right into the wall.
Shit. You'll need the toolkit for that job. I'll get on the horn to dispatch, see what's taking them so long.
I'll come back later. I got a blocked door here.
Yep. NATO still hasn't gotten its ass into gear. I can make some calls, but,
I'll come back later. The people here, they didn't have much love for their army.
Why do you think that is?
History, I guess. This place never supported the military takeover, the Kavala coup and all that. Plus, stationing troops in the town, nobody believed the government spin about training. They were seen as an occupying force, there to keep a lid on things. Where our camp used to be.
Anything left?
Not much. Few memories, maybe.
What do you hope to achieve in the town? What's your end goal?
Poke around, get rid of all the bad stuff, ERW, explosive remnants of war. In Oreo Castro, that'll be landmines and some leftover ordnance. The church, where the mines are, it's sealed off now.
By IDAP.
No, NATO. They lost some guys there in the firefight. One of their EODs is helping clear the place. But, he's not a... Hey, Andy.
Yep. What's up?
What's the deal with the church? Can we get in or what?
Sorry, Mac. No dice. NATO's got first dibs. They're bringing their boys home. Bag and tag. Let's leave them to it.
I'll come back later. There's some old boxes here and there.
IDAP.
Yeah. It was NATO that helped bring them in. Actually, it was one hell of a supply drop.
So, the supply drop, this was when exactly?
Right around the time we saw the ceasefire starting to break down. Must be more than a year ago now.
So, at that time, your camp was in the center of town.
Yeah, things were getting pretty desperate, though. I remember we hadn't been resupplied in months. No food, water, medicine. We were used to issues with logistics, but I don't know. In the end, it got so bad U.S. forces prepared an airdrop. Not an easy task, considering, but those crates, they really were life and death. That's why we needed somebody on the ground. Someone to make sure they came down okay.
And who was that?
A guy named Adams, part of the NATO peacekeeping force. Close friend of mine, actually. It was his job to locate a drop zone.
In the mountains.
Mm-hmm. Needless to say, High Command always had ideas, but they weren't always good. Plus, no one had planned for those crosswinds flaring up. But our supplies were already in the air.
He made a spur-of-the-moment decision.
Pretty much. Although he described it with correct language. The way he told it only as well. Now, it's a new recruit scope options. His job to ensure it works. The MOD.
Yes, we were there. AAN.
And you know how bad it got.
Our movements were limited by the government.
Exactly. And convincing anybody to reassign troops, to escort NGOs, just a total non-starter. Once he'd called in the airdrop, that was it. They just had to sit tight, hope for the best. To the southwest, his command had pointed out what they thought was a promising drop zone.
One thing I don't understand.
The town. This place has historic ties with the guerrillas. For years, people here would provide them with food, water.
I see.
The government responded by draining the swamp.
And that involved sending soldiers?
Yeah, coin ops. Adams and his guys were there to remind them of their R2P.
Just a sec. I'm getting a bit lost in the lingo here.
Oh, gotcha. R2P is their responsibility to protect. Counterinsurgency can get real messy real quick. He was in charge of training, laws of armed conflict, that kind of thing. Adams normally tossed out an orange smoke grenade, which marked his position from the pilot. Medicine, another fresh drinking water, the rest were packed with rice and grain. Adams had to inspect each one individually. Later, we'd arrange collection. Thankfully, the rice seemed okay. There wasn't a drone for the sounds of rain this morning. I didn't use a single one. Medical items had been trashed. Arms were broken. Just a total mess. It was a disaster. Adams didn't know it, but one of our doctors had lost a patient because of that. As I recall, the bottles of purified water were found. The crates were still needed to check for anyone else had them. purified water are fine. We've been waiting on those for weeks. Smoke, noise of the plane, those bright green parachutes, they're gonna get you noticed. And when you're in the middle of bandit country, that's a problem. Sniper, 75 meters front.
Guerrillas attacked.
Yeah, from what I heard, it was pretty intense. I don't have the numbers, but maybe 6 or 7 were killed. Thankfully, the rice seemed okay. As I recall, the bottles of purified water were fine. We'd been waiting on the exactly subtle. Smoke, noise of the plane. It wasn't uncommon for an impact, but that time, we got lucky.
Contact! Contact technical!
Thankfully, the rice seemed okay. As for the crates, they still needed to be checked before anyone else arrived.
Car, 400 meters east. Command, 600 meters southeast.
The guerrillas attacked.
Yeah, from what I heard, it was pretty intense. I don't have the numbers, but maybe 6 or 7 were killed.
What happens when the supplies have been secured?
Adams would fire a flare. Back at the camp, of course, we'd heard all the gunfire, but that flare, when we spotted it, I don't know, felt like finding a moment of hope or something.
Sure. I can only imagine. And thanks for sharing. It puts a human perspective on my work. Speaking of which, your friend, do you think he'd be willing to contribute further? Even, off the record. What with the topic of my article, having an expert, an instructor on the laws of war.
Look, I'm sorry. I know he'd help out however he could, but listen, he died on Stratus. Year and a bit later. Landmine.
Mac, heads up. Bobcat's on the move.
That's fine, thanks, Andy. AK, bear with me. It's gonna get a little noisy here. We gotta clear out some more.
Take your time. Just let me know when you can talk.
Okay, road's safe now. Bring the van on up.
Will do. Also, Mac, the name...
Hey, quick tidbit for you. Oreo Castro means beautiful castle in the local lingo.
Oh, I didn't know that. Do you speak the language?
Not so much, only with the older generation. Not a problem now, though.
Oh?
Well, Oreo Castro's pretty much a ghost town. Nothing here but remnants of war and a couple of goats. And they aren't exactly great conversationalists. Morning. You been in?
You kidding me? I ain't going in there, man. That shit's all yours.
Where are you now?
Who, me? I'm exploring.
I can hear an echo. Tell me more about Staff Sergeant Adams. You met him on a previous deployment. That must have been in Generous, right?
No, actually, this was after I'd left the military. Previous deployment with IDAP, Pakistan. Must have been, 15 years ago? I think. Feels like another lifetime. I got a leaflet here. The Army must have scattered thousands of these.
Propaganda.
Something like that. This one says there's still time to surrender. Maybe a bad choice of words considering.
Time to surrender. What's the context here?
This was last year, September. These leaflets, they were dropped maybe a day before the fighting began. You see, the guerrillas there, they'd found themselves a new leader. Charismatic, ex-military. For him, this was no time to surrender. Far from it. In fact, he used that time to rally his people, encourage them to resist, build defenses. Meanwhile, the army was setting up for a major offensive. The attack on Oreo Castro? It was no secret. Of course, after the leaflet drop, IDAP started to pull out of the town. So the little I do know, well, that brings us back to the brother. The one who disappeared. His name was Alexis. He volunteered to build a barricade. Town was his home, after all.
So, these leaflets, they were a warning to the town.
Yeah, they confirmed the offensive.
The government was concerned about civilian casualties.
Don't sound too surprised.
So, NATO's message, do you think it was getting through? I mean, according to the laws of armed conflict, that's the principle of precaution, right?
Sure, maybe. Or maybe they were just sick of all the extra paperwork.
I think Alexis, I don't know, thought twice about taking the vehicles.
Sure, these were his neighbors, but this was their home. It was under attack.
Help me out with some context here. This barricade.
I mean, it was crude, right? A gap between two outcrops of rock, natural bottleneck. The guerrillas hoped to block the road by jamming it with vehicles. As for the vehicles in the barricade, the commission actually linked the plates to a number of locals. Of course, several were still missing after the incident, so the investigation made some assumptions.
At what point did things become unsafe in the center of town?
Well, I'm not sure it was ever completely safe. Even before things escalated, we were concerned about being accidentally targeted. And to be honest, it didn't matter where we moved. That always remained a concern.
all of them were taken without consent.
Well, yeah, given the circumstances. Owners couldn't exactly refuse.
Right, but that's the thing. Never mind theft being illegal. The laws of armed conflict prohibit such actions.
Hey, just a thought. You remember the earthquakes back then?
Yes, they were quite frequent. Were IDAP at all concerned about that?
Oh, yeah. Any kind of disaster relief on top of what we were dealing with, it would have just about finished us off completely. IDAP's neutrality was one thing, but the situation they faced was quite another. Nothing like biting the hand that feeds.
After Alexis built the barricade, what then? Did he stay inside the town?
No, that's where the story gets more complicated. The barricade itself was later chained up and set on fire by someone else. I don't know quite who. Alexis, he headed west to lay mines.
Stop me if this is a delicate topic, but I'd like to press you for more information on the executions.
No, I mean, you're investigating war crimes. I'll tell you what I can.
Okay. How many were killed?
9.
And, in your opinion, what did this violence achieve?
Nothing. All that, I don't know if it served any purpose. Anti-tank mines were already in the ground. If there's no pull fuse, and so long as they've not been stacked, they aren't too hard to remove. But Alexis, although he didn't use anti-handling devices, he did create a hybrid minefield.
AP mines. Mixed with APs?
That's it, yeah. He put anti-personnel mines around the anti-tank ones, made clearance all that much harder.
These mines, how did they get hold of them?
They got them when the government's outposts fell into guerrilla hands. Bounding mines. A type that leaps up a meter into the air before exploding. Nasty stuff. Hell, nowadays they're even made with plastic casing to throw off older types of mine detector.
Lovely.
Oh, yeah. It was important for Alexis to place his mines near the anti-tank. You know, thinking about it, even if we had a record of where Alexis's mines were, it may not do much good.
No? I thought minefield maps were a key part of your work.
Most folks don't realize, but landmines, they don't stay put. Heavy rain, landslides, keeping them at...
And did he? Place them correctly, I mean.
No, not really. I mean, Alexis had basic training, but I'm more impressed he didn't blow himself up, really.
So, moving on. Where did Alexis go next?
He took a quad bike up to the castle behind the town.
The castle? Why?
He was needed at the guerrillas' base camp.
Okay. His group were running things from up at the castle.
Mm-hmm. And I see what you're getting at. Yeah, Geneva Convention's cultural objects, I think.
The barricade. There wasn't any way around it then.
From the road? No, well, not unless you cut through the compound.
Maybe a technical question.
Go ahead.
In these situations, do those involved commonly record the locations of minefields?
That's a tough one. Take this situation, for example. I'm convinced Alexis would have made a record. It's his home, after all. But do we have access to that information? No. And that's the problem. Things, information, people, landmines, they get lost in the fog of war. But that's the thing about landmines. Lost or not, they stick around. They wait to be found.
Do you feel these preparations made a difference?
In the short term, I do, yeah. The barricade held. The government's tanks were knocked out on the road.
And in the long term?
I'd go on, but as you may have heard, it's getting kind of loud here.
By the sounds of it, you've got your hands full.
This'll only take a minute. Be right back.